The cult Netflix series Stranger Things is back and darker than ever. The last series was set in 1984, but this one jumps forward to 1985, following a group of now young adults. Seasons 1 and 2 were filled with great 80s references. We're going to have a look at all the ones in Season 3. And yes, spoilers are coming.
A beauty, a jock, a rebel.
1985 was a strong year for cult cinema. Box office hits included The Goonies, Brazil, and Teen Wolf, so we expected some strong cultural references from Season 3. The most obvious one is Robert Zemeckis' Back to the Future. This features obviously in Episode 7, when Dustin and his group hide in the screening of the movie to escape the Soviets. First, we see a poster, then segments of the movie playing on the projector. But did you spot an earlier reference in Mrs. Driscoll's house in Episode 2? The camera pans from a Kit Kat clock on the wall to Nancy and Jonathan. That clock is in the title sequence for Back to the Future, as well as in Katy Perry and Taylor Swift music videos. There are also some visual parallels between Joyce visiting Mr. Clark in his garage, with Marty visiting Doc. There's been a poster for The Thing on the Wheelers' basement wall since Season 1, but the movie gets a name check this season by Mike and Lucas in Episode 3. In Episode 1, the gang sneak into a screening of George Romero's Day of the Dead. It's billed as a sneak preview, as the movie premiered on June the 30th, 1985, but had a widespread release on July the 19th. So the Hawkins Middle AV Club really would have been some of the first people to watch it. We also see a poster for The Evil Dead on Jonathan's bedroom wall in this episode, originating from 1981. Fans will be keeping a close eye out for the It Easter egg. In Season 2, Bob Newby's childhood story seemed to recall the events of Stephen King's It.
Hey kiddo, would you like a balloon?
In Season 3, Episode 7, Alexei is shot in the fairground by Grigory. At the same time, a red balloon is popped by someone winning a prize. The book It didn't come out until 1986. Could the red balloon pop be a nod to It? The series makes heavy reference to The Goonies. Dustin also near repeats one of the most famous lines in the film.
Holy Mary, Mother of God.
When arriving at the bottom of the elevator in Episode 5. Interestingly, The Goonies and Stranger Things both starred Sean Astin, who played Bob Newby in Season 2, and appears in a brief Season 3 flashback. The Soviet threat in Season 3 brings up some interesting parallels with 80s Cold War movies. The opening scenes resemble that of 1983's War Games. In Episode 5, Dustin recalls the movie Red Dawn, in which a group of teenagers attempt to defend their town from a Russian invasion. In Episode 3, Dustin mentions to Steve that they're likely to spot an undercover Soviet because he's carrying a duffel bag. And he's sort of got a point. Name any big action movie from the mid-80s, and this trope comes up. Rambo First Blood 2, Soviets. A View to a Kill, the Soviets. Rocky IV, Dolph Lundgren as the Soviet. The plotline of Soviets taking over a shopping mall has parallels to Chuck Norris's 1985 film Invasion USA, in which the action star takes on a mixture of Latin American and Soviet agents. In Episode 5, when one of the Soviets shoots at Joyce and Hopper, he follows the car out into the garden in a robotic way. The scene looks very similar to the end of the cop shop shootout in The Terminator. The mayor in Episode 4 even makes a joke about one of the bad guys being Arnold Schwarzenegger. In Episode 5, it's the most obvious Die Hard reference. Hopper holds a gun to Grigory's head. Grigory says that Hopper won't dare shoot him because policemen have rules.
Yeah? Why not? Because you're a policeman. There are rules for policemen.
An exact quote a henchman says to John McClane, with the same spray of machine gun fire after. Something more subtle, perhaps, is Dustin getting stuck in the air vent in Episode 4. Mid-80s horror fans will love the funhouse sequence in Episode 7. When Hopper enters, you can hear a taunting, spooky voice say, "Do you dare face the challenge of the funhouse?" It sounds eerily like the trailer voiceover from 1981's Funhouse, a horror film set at the fair. The Hall of Mirrors moment plays out like the 1983 fantasy Something Wicked This Way Comes, also set at the fairground. The Mind Flayer seeps and oozes into host bodies, much like how the Blob moves around in the 1988 movie. The way it hugs onto its victim face is similar, as well as its veiny, sticky tendrils. And that creepy hospital scene in episode 5, it has a bit of a Halloween 2 feeling about it. Episode 6 features a rather gruesome scene where Steve and Robin are being interrogated by the Russians. Torture equipment is brought in, along with an administrator in a white overall. Personally, this reminded me of the torture scene in the 1985 Terry Gilliam film Brazil. In episode 8, Billy's car lights flash on as he prepares to smash into Jonathan and Nancy. These shots look very similar to the 1983 horror film Christine, about a man possessed by his car. Also, when he enters the mall, Billy appears to be dressed like Kurt Russell in 1986 Big Trouble in Little China. In the same episode, Steve and Robin are in the video rental store, where we can see lots of posters and front covers of VHS tapes. There's Mad Max, Animal House, Car Wash, as well as a poster in the window for 1984's Scarface. Steve knocks over a cardboard cutout to 1982's Fast Times at Ridgemont High, which in itself is a very Ridgemont High slapstick thing to do.
What is the secret?
And we couldn't talk about movies without mentioning the Neverending Story. In episode 8, Dustin calls his girlfriend Susie to ask what Planck's constant is in order to unlock a door. She forces him to serenade her with the theme tune to the Neverending Story. It was released in April 1985, so it would have been a current cinema movie. Also note how on the wall of Susie's bedroom, she has a poster for The Wizard of Oz, another escapist fantasy. She's reading The Wizard of Earthsea by Ursula Le Guin. Two popular 80s TV shows feature in this season. In episode 1, Hopper is watching Magnum P.I., a show about a charismatic private investigator. There's also a short snippet of Cheers, when Joyce is eating a TV dinner alone. She thinks about Bob commenting on the will they won't they storyline between the characters of Ted and Diane. Could this be a parallel to Joyce and Hopper's will they won't they sexual tension?
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the film portion of our presentation. Now, I'm sure you all have questions, so
The shopping mall was a central part of American life in the 80s. Jess Royal explained in Stranger Things Worlds Turned Upside Down that the production wanted to stay true to all the products on sale, so actually built a mall as the set, genuinely filled with products. Classic 1980s US brands are in situ. There's The Gap, JCPenney, Waldenbrooks, Sam Goody. And we're told that Taco Bell and Esprit are coming soon. There's the book Breaking with Moscow, behind Steve and Dustin in this Season 3 Episode 3 scene. This is a genuine 1985 release by a former Soviet foreign minister. It foreshadows Alexi's storyline. In Episode 1's first scene, after the credits, the camera pans over two cassettes. One is by Bryan Adams and the other one is by Corey Hart. Very much the 1983-84 heartthrob. It's also in this episode that we see music posters on Jonathan's bedroom wall. There's one for R.E.M., specifically their 1983 release Murmur. Even though the band was formed in 1980, they didn't achieve mass popularity until 1987, which means Jonathan caught them in their cult period. 80s era music fills the season. We catch parts of Madonna's Material Girl, REO Speedwagon's Can't Fight This Feeling, The Cars' Moving in Stereo, Foreigner's Cold as Ice, and Bonnie Tyler's Total Eclipse of the Heart.
Ahoy!
The season has noticeable product placement of Coca-Cola, specifically New Coke, which was a limited edition run in 1985. Netflix executives even visited the Atlanta Coca-Cola archives to study the packaging and advertising. Look closer at some of the books and magazine covers throughout the season. In episode 1, Mrs. Wheeler is sat poolside reading Johanna Lindsey's Tender is the Storm, a sensationalist romance novel from 1985. She also reads a book by the same author in Season 2, Episode 9. In Episode 3, Max shows Eleven a copy of Super Teen, featuring a double-page spread of Ralph Macchio, The Karate Kid, which came out in 1984.
Telling me.
In Max's bedroom, we see a poster for the 1960s cult surf film, The Endless Summer. The poster reads, "Follow the surf around the world from Malibu," which potentially foreshadows later surfing scenes in California with Billy. The editions of Penthouse magazine that Alex and Eleven discover in Billy's drawer in Episode 3 are genuine historical editions. In Episode 4, Max is also reading mid-80s editions of Wonder Woman and Green Lantern. In Episode 7, the group loots a store. Now, it's the same store that Eleven stole from in Season 1. This time, she sits in front of a fridge full of Eggo waffles, preparing to enter the Upside Down. In previous seasons, we have seen her go straight to grab them, but in Season 3, the situation at the mall is so desperate that she barely even looks at them. In Mike's basement, we see retro board games like Upwards, which was invented in 1981. I don't know about you, but Dustin's toys coming to life reminds me of the front cover of Stephen King's 1985 collection Skeleton Crew. The cover features a simple clapping monkey. Will appears in his wizard costume for the first time during Dungeons & Dragons, and it's a dead-on match with the drawings of Will the Wise that we saw on the wall in Season 2, Episode 4. The funfair scene gives us two 80s references. The first is the ride The Gravitron, a popular ride introduced in 1983, and a stuffed toy Alexi wins of Woody Woodpecker, who was a kids' TV staple in the mid-80s. Think you spotted anything not on this list? Comment below.